Well, then I appreciate the feedback on that idea. You can still offer it. I'm not saying that to conclude it and say, "Nah, we're over it." The bloom is fallen off the rose here, right? No, I think we can still talking about those ideas to enhance or to add to other programming. Something I would also like to do is to be able to set up a rig at the shop and broadcast the public D&D game there. Even if it's only looking at the battle map, because maybe not everyone there is going to want to be on camera, and I understand that. Hey, Forsaken, good to see you. But hey, throw out some ideas. I may not be able to act on them immediately, because look, sometimes suggestions, as solid as they are, I just need to sit on it for a week to consider it, or just to get the time to implement it, or start researching it. This week's big advancement here was adding our roleplay rooms and our roleplay chatbot here, Avray, in order to use it as a reference, as a dice generator. And if you all want to play D&D together, you can pop in one of our, well, I guess it'd be over here, one of our roleplay rooms, and you don't even have to leave the community in order to do that, because you can upload character sheets to Avray and cast off of them, or make attacks, or that sort of a thing. You had a great day at D&D? Yeah, Forsaken, are you willing to share your story? What happened at your tabletop? Ooh, pardon me. That's soda. And by the way, new Pokemans, huh? New Pokemans. If any of you do play Go, let me know and we'll swap friend codes. Hey, Glitch Mouse, welcome! We have just started up, well, I will just start up our discussion of what is a single PC campaign. What are some considerations? Because I want to talk about the fundamentals of running a system like that before we take our break and come back, and then we'll use what we generated here for Velma Dilly Dilly and her travels, the things that has changed her, the things that have developed her over time. And perhaps this could give you ideas for your own character. Or if you don't have a group of 4, 5, 6 friends that can make it on a constant basis, but maybe you have 1 or 2 friends, this might help you feel more comfortable running a campaign for a smaller group. Forsaken, I fell down 30 feet into a basement cellar and took 24 damage and couldn't get out. I chopped my thumb off and reattached it. Oh. So yeah, you had a bit of an adventure. How did you end up reattaching it, Forsaken? I ask because, I mean, look, the regeneration spell exists, but wacky things happen at tabletops, and I love hearing new ideas. Dark Wolf, the moon is very wooable, especially for the past couple nights as it's been growing full. With the winds that we've been having, and so you get the clouds that just sort of pass by, and the nights are just kind of like, they're just chilly enough to make you shiver a little bit. Then you fell through the floor and took 80 damage, and then got stuck under the rubble. Whew. How are you keeping yourself up through that? Glitch Mouse. I'm just sighing because some of the people in my group are pitching doing an intentionally evil campaign, and in my experience it ends up cartoonishly evil and full of backstabbing and not really fun. Well, I mean, if you don't like it, then you could back out, or you could just ask them and say, okay, sell me on the idea. Ask them, what is an evil campaign to you? What are some ideas? DJ, that was just his side of the campaign? Oh, okay, gotcha, DJ. Oh, I can't call you DJ Delta anymore. Okay, so it's now DJ Chocolat. Chocolat. You just changed your Twitch name. And hello, Bro Applier. Welcome back to you. I have a ring of regeneration, so I have to hold on to it for 20 minutes. Oh, okay. All right, Forsaken. Well, that's, I still hope you had fun doing that. There we go. I think I bumped my desk as I was moving things around. Glitchmouse says, like, I can do a mixed good-evil party, but it gets silly, especially when characters are, like, only keeping each other around because they're useful. If played right, that is. Darkwolf says, Wu is going to get some nom-noms. All right. Eat something tasty. Pneumonica says that Glitchmouse for a good evil campaign, check out Necessary Evil for Savage Worlds. The PCs are all supervillains. They're also the only operating resistance to alien conquerors of the Earth. Oh, you have overpowered gear? Well, hopefully that doesn't mean that it's taking the thrill out of the campaign for you too. Because having that risk of loss of life or limb in a more permanent capacity can often make a game more thrilling for you than if you know that you're coated in a comfy, warm blanket of magic items. Bro Plier says, I baked cookies earlier. Oh, what type of cookies? Oh, and you watched Infinity War 2. I hope you liked it. Speaking of... on your side of the campaign, I got to my God's Palace. Secondary game, not our main one. Ah. Ooh, good. Chocolate chip. Hey, Cake Boss, welcome. Speaking of bacon tasty things, cake is delicious. I basically had to die and sell my soul to a god. Oh. Alright, so that put you in a pinch. Oh, you're all stories. I love hearing them. And it sounds like too that you all are having success finding your standard size parties. I mean, any magic items aside. Oh, you made a character for the dice camera action contest. I regret half the things. Oh, what's the contest about? Oh, and you've still been working on that Star Wars game too, Cake Boss. Awesome. So I hope you're developing the storyline of that like force zombie plague that was going around. You ended up having to fight an Ent after having most of my life sucked out of my body if it was not for healing spells. Ended up getting an OP ability by beating the Ent. What sort of superpower did you end up with by beating it up? Well, yeah, you were starting it off as a one shot. I didn't know if you expanded it to revisit it, or that was going to be the overarching theme of the campaign, was going to be the investigation of this disease or this transmutation. I'm not sure what that implies, DJ. Strix is making a coven, and they're letting people make characters for it. It's over on Monday. It's to make a level 5 character on D&D Beyond, and 3 of the people will get to guest on Dice Camera Action. Ah, cool. You have to take damage. It requires a con check. Oh yeah, Forsaken, you definitely have a lot of magic items that are going to make it tough to have a. Well, I mean, we're going to be talking about encounters here. I guess to have a normal encounter, though. Of course, there's ways to get around that as well to make it challenging for you. Diadems had an assassin try to take out our bard in the Elven capital, and then we dispatched 2 more assassins and 4 fanatical elves. Accidentally killed one of the royal guard, and now are continuing on our quest. Did you have to atone for that death, Diadems? DJ says 3. I can cast any of the following spells without any materials or the like. I got you, Forsaken. You know, for as much as you paint minis, did you find a miniature that represents your character? Did you paint one up? Do you have something, like, what do you put down on the table? Oh, Neil, thank you very much for the follow. As well, the link that you got for the standard character sheet that you see here is just that. If you would like to consider some really good alternative character sheets as well, I would recommend typing in !Charvar, CHARVAR for character variant. And that'll also give you some other good options to consider for when you decide to make a character. But yeah, welcome very much, Neil. Ooh. Hey, there we go. I don't know why my stream elements was a little delayed, but Neil Caffrey, thank you very much for that follow. And yeah, you're very welcome. Discovered your channel searching for Pathfinder 2e reviews. Well, I'm glad, Neil. Well, I'm glad you found us through there. We went through the Pathfinder 2 playtest packet. Well, I'm glad you liked it, and I really did try to be honest and open-minded about things, as well as admitting any of my personal biases while going through it. You know, it's a system. The system works. In fact, I'll tell you, Pathfinder 2nd Edition has been receiving patches, for lack of a better term, updates on things. For instance, the classes are no longer locked into 1 or 2 skills that only it can master. But thank you for finding us. Thank you for coming and giving us a chance, even if it's not talking about Pathfinder directly. Forsaken says a Secret Dart, Javelin of Lightning, Longsword of Life-Stealing, Flame Tongue Longsword. Oh, you're just a big pile of treasure for someone to just roll up on and and steal in the middle of the night. Yes. Civil Hermit is control of multiple characters within the constraints of this challenge. Not necessarily fully statted out player classes that just one person uses. More like meeting allies along the way that would be simpler for the player to control than the GM. Not to mention things like buying hirelings or training attack animals. I think that's like playing multiple characters as a PC, or dual boxing, sometimes as it's called. It could be within the constraints, and it would be something to consider. Because look, you might need to fluff it up, or if you're the DM, you might run a DM PC alongside your one friend as you're having a heads-up D&D game. If it's just a DM and a PC playing otherwise. That's quite a list of abilities there, DJ. It's understandable. Some people prefer less crunch, more fluff. Yep, and through that, I did really hope that I kept that in perspective. That it's perfectly fine if people like other systems, or if they like very minutia heavy, more crunch, right? To keep it simple, that they love crunchy systems. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't lose sleep at night knowing people play Pathfinder. Oh no, right? Are you having fun? Are you playing with friends? Boom, there you go. It could be GURPS, it could be Dark Heresy, it could be second edition D&D with THACO and all of that, and random charts for everything. But still, Neil, I do appreciate you giving the time to look at the videos, to search them, and then to pop by and see us when we're broadcasting live. I hope in a live setting, we will continue to give you a good impression of who we are and what we do. Forsaken, I know that's why I like to sleep in our armored cart and keep watch. Good. That paranoia is exactly what a villain or a thief needs to catch you unawares. Because you can't sleep all the time. You're going to have to fall asleep at some point. It could be Rollmaster. I'm not familiar with that term, Neil. Oh, all that's happening at level 8. Ooh, you're getting some good at that level, DJ. Alexander, hello, good to see you. I know one of the last times you tried to visit us, we were just at the end of the broadcast, so thank you for popping in. Civil, to touch on what you were saying, can in the scope of this roleplay challenge, running a heads up system, one DM to one PC, that would really be between the two friends or whoever's playing. Because when you look at a challenge rating of a monster, and we're just talking mechanical combat here, it's meant for a party of 4 of a certain level. So if I am your DM and you're my PC, and I say, all right, you're playing Velma Dilly Dilly, whom we generated randomly earlier in the week, and I'm going to run a Ghast at you, okay? So here's a Ghast, and look, it's only a challenge rating 2. You are a level 6 barbarian. This should be easy pickings for you. It's a medieval tabletop RPG, says Neil. First edition is from the 80s. Probably the crunchiest and most confusing system ever, but some people still love it. They do, and I will not begrudge them that. Again, if you're having fun, oh no, not fun. With friends, Okay, Broplier. Well, I mean, enjoy what you're doing. Aghast, right, Pneumonica? There are always ways around things, Forsaken. It may be a complex tumbling lock, but I could very well come up to your lock and pour a vial of acid inside of it and melt out all the intricate components, and your lock would just liquefy, and I'll just open it up like nothing. Fun with friends? That sounds like the opposite of D&D, right? So let's take a look. If you are going to throw a Ghast at Velma Dilly Dilly here. All right. Let's take the claws to Velma here. Who, by the way, let's see, if she wasn't wearing any armor, because we didn't buy her any, but, I mean, we can average it out. We can either just cap it off with medium armor and go 16, because she's wearing, what, half plate? Or, what's the default? Scale mail. Or she can go 15 as a Dex Con, but let's just give her the 16 instead. And we have a cat. Ghast is going to swing on her. It's going to get a +5 to hit. So it's going to need an 11 or greater, meaning that it has a 50% chance to hit Velma on any given turn. And in fact, it is going to have a higher chance, 75% chance, if she is doing reckless attack and she's offering advantage to the Ghast. Now, if that were to happen, I mean, so every other turn, if not more, we're going to be dealing an average damage of 10. Looking at the monster entry here. Right there. Claws. I mean, we can look at the bite also. She has 60 hit points. Now, we will, hopefully we're raging, and we might be able to take a little bit of that slashing damage, off. But we're looking at 6 rounds. Maybe she'll survive 6 rounds. Look at the effect on the claws, though. Must succeed on a DC 10 con saving throw or be paralyzed for a minute. Now, for her, that's not as bad, right? She has a +5. So there's a 25% chance, 20% chance that she'll lose that. Being paralyzed in this case, though, is really going to hurt her even more. Her output, she gets a +6 to hit. Armor class of 13, so that's going to be, she needs a 7. It might be higher. So if she is going with reckless attack, she would need, let's see, on average that'd be 5. So, I mean, a 2 or higher in that case, but then she'd be pretty much guaranteed to be taking almost that full 10 damage every turn. And she'd be dealing on average, let's see, 9 slashing damage. So 9, 18, 27, 36. If she hit every turn for average damage, it would go down in 4 rounds. And if she didn't get paralyzed. And over 4 rounds, she would take, on average, what? We take off 2, 8, 32 damage. So she'd be over halfway down. She could theoretically beat one Ghast. And then she'd have to take a rest and blow her hit dice. Or at least a portion of them. Or drink a potion. Or things along those lines. But this is a challenge rating 2. One challenge rating 2 monster. Going against a level 6 character. In fact, she'd take even more damage if we decided to go with the bite, because the average damage on that is a little bit higher at 12 instead of 10. I mean, can we account for critical hits? Can we account for her being paralyzed? In the grand scheme of things, yes. But I'm trying to convey the point that if you're a DM rolling a system out for one player, this is still a pretty nasty fight up here with one CR2 Ghast against a barbarian. I mean, let alone, what if it was a rogue that's not as squishy? Or not, or squishier than a barbarian. Forsaken's weakness is walking downstairs. Is that why he fell into the basement, DJ? Civil, I see. I was thinking the challenge was about one character soloing a campaign rather than it just being a one-to-one dynamic. Yeah, so it would get in about half damage by the time the ghast fell. And hopefully, I mean, if there's one ghast, it's not impossible. Would there be also a bunch of ghouls hanging around? Oh well, again, bro. If you're enjoying what you're liking, then enjoy it. DJ says also our game today was about a 10-hour session. Nice. Having one of those where you're playing and the sun is still up, and then you stop playing and you realize that the sun is coming back up. What happened? New Monica, this is where strategy can make a difference. If she instead threw a knife per round while moving backwards, she could train that ghast and inflict damage without any return. She does have an extra attack. She could, with a Berserker, if she was willing to accept the exhaustion, she could go 3. And this is where other strategy can come into play too. Yeah, you could train your enemy, or kite your enemy. You could have that strategy. On the other hand, if the ghast is being semi-smart, it might try and sneak up. Well, yes, because ghasts aren't unintelligent, right? They were given where ghouls are little more than savage beasts, a ghast is cunning and can inspire a pack of ghouls to follow its commands. So a ghast isn't just a shambling zombie either. And if this character is going through a dungeon, I would suggest tactic versus tactic. And you're right, Neil, in that she would be presumably swinging several times. Would she be using her reckless attack? In this case, maybe she's playing it a little bit more strategic, because she doesn't want to offer the chance to roll that low number and get paralyzed with those claws. Because if she's paralyzed, that thing will savage her. Yeah, she could try throwing the javelins as well. She'd probably have to take a hit, but it'd be pretty decent. And, think too, if she's throwing a knife at the ghast, or a javelin, if it hits, or even if it misses, the ghast is dexterous, strong, and smart enough to do the same thing back to her. Now, fortunately, a barbarian is good for a melee combat like this, or at least a semi-ranged sort of combat. Still, she took some licks in, right? Hopefully she does roll well, she gets her attacks. If she's willing to risk that third attack and get exhaustion, that could be dangerous. Especially in a solo campaign, because status effects, who's going to heal that? Unless you as a DM do provide, kind of as Civil Hermit was talking about, a hireling, or I don't know, you let your PC have a backpack full of potions for various conditions. Sometimes one status effect is enough to ruin one character, even if there's 4, 5, or 6 that are fighting in a fight, let alone one. Because once this character, if she rolls unlucky and she gets paralyzed, it's going to be tough. And so having a consideration like this, what are the abilities of the monster? What are the abilities of my PC if you're running in a heads-up system? Can you do this math to average out, okay, so Velma will probably drop a ghast in melee combat in 3 rounds or so, on average, perhaps. Maybe more, depending on if she's going reckless or not. Because unless you're playing heads up and you really want to punish your friend, you should be conscious of that. Now, fortunately, I guess a strength would be for a single character, AoEs are the same thing as a single target spell. A trap is still a trap. Although that would be something else to consider too. Right? She has taken perception, so she might be able to look for traps. She might even be able to jump over a pressure plate. because she has an innate decent strength here at a +3. Maybe even because she does have training in thieves tools as a charlatan in her original incarnation. Oh, I'm sorry, it was disguise and forgery, not thieves. I was thinking of urchin. But if she did get training in that along the way too, you know, maybe she would take that advantage, and she would know no one's going to be here for me, right? I'm Laura Croft. I'm raiding this tomb, and I have to do this adventure solo. She may be a barbarian, but she may not be super reckless about that. So she might buy tools or equipment. And therefore, as a DM, consider that. You know what's going to come up in your adventure. You want to run this barbarian through an abandoned temple to have her recover a lost gem. You know, creating the maze and creating some baseline stats for traps and such. You know, it'll scale, but just remember, all the damage she takes is going to be cumulative. Even if she can heal it off with some hit dice, she's lost those hit dice for a day, and there may not be an opportunity inside your temple for her to just, you know, I clear a room, I sleep 8 hours, I clear a room, I sleep 8 hours. That may not be an option realistically or in the sense of what you would plan for that dungeon. And so keep that pool of hit points in mind. In fact, if it helps you as a DM, you could consider that as an encounter on the whole. Her total hit points aren't 59. Her total hit points, well, if we go 6.5, so that's 13. 13 times 3 is 39. She has, on average, a total hit point value of 98. If you're designing an encounter with monsters or traps or hazards, you as the DM can consider her total pool of hit points. I mean, if you know she has potions or a magic wand of, you know, cure or whatever, you can add that into her pool of hit points. But consider that as well. If you do this method and you say, okay, so she doesn't have 59, she has on average 98, maybe more or less if I force her to roll. What is it? If I just give her half or half plus 1, or if I want to be generous and say this is a solo encounter and it's probably going to be difficult, I'm just going to give her max hit dice. In that case, then you have 72. So that's going to go to 61, 131. And then when you go to the traps and it says, all right, so it's going to be this reflex on a flame jet. It's going to be either all or nothing, or it'll be all or save for half. And you say, all right, well, this is going to be a deadly trap, and at this level, that's going to be 40-10. On average, then, that's 5.5, so 11, so 22 damage on a 4d10. Then you can now start budgeting her hit points for your encounters, for traps, for monsters, for hazards. You could take into consideration if you want to inflict her with some kind of a disease or a condition or a level of exhaustion. Also, how that can work. So not that you can't be savvy about abilities and numbers in a party where you have multiple players, but when it's heads up, it really is a game of resource management on both your parts. Pneumonica, a gas stalking someone or a group of ghouls using wolfpack tactics can be much more significant than if they simply charge into battle. Yes. And, it even says that the ghast will try and control the ghouls, who are more savage. Monsters may not always be alone either, even if you think you have the drop on them. 107, good to see you back. Okay, so if a member of your party does something that accidentally gets a member of your party killed, Do they get EXP for it? Because if they killed a monster in the same manner, they would. Alright, so 107, that is... actually, a couple of our players were in that conundrum with their game before. I will first off say that I do not play with experience points, because it can create situations like this, or it can lead to players becoming murder hobos, because everything isn't a barrel or a cat or an owlbear or a goblin or an NPC. Everything becomes an experience points value. So I don't know. I use the milestone method, and that doesn't help your particular situation. If any of you out there play with experience points, and you could give 107 your advice, 107, mine would be that depends. Ask your player if experience points represent you learning and improving your character. I want you to tell me what your character learned and how your character improved in order to earn those experience points from killing another party member. Not just, well, it was justifiable because I'm a paladin and that person, stole a loaf of bread from a baker, and I had to mete out justice. Can your player rationalize his or her actions into making an appeal to earn experience points for murdering another player? Have them rationalize the actions. Have them talk about the actions. And you know what? If they say, yeah, I learned a lot. I learned how to fight against a rogue. I've never done that before. I learned how to dodge and dodge, dip, weave, and all that. Or I learned something. Experience is just that. The reason why you get experience points is because you're learning and adapting and growing. You're getting better. Are you a better person in some way? It may be an evil act, but are you better? Are you a better strategist? Are you a better person because you realized you murdered and maybe you feel guilty about it? And now you have a roleplay complication. So you've earned experience points because your character has grown, even negatively, but now you can grow out of that hole throughout the rest of the campaign. Make that character, in my opinion, earn the experience points if they're asking for it. Uh, 107, I hope that my answer from a person who doesn't use experience still makes sense. Neil, the situation reminds me of 4th edition White Wormling Dragon. He was a level 1 elite brute, but had a breath weapon for 3d6 plus 4, higher than the level 5 elite soldier. Oh, yeah. And as a DM, you could say, oh, well, look, because it is a level 1 something, or it's a challenge rating, whatever. Or, oh, yeah, she's a barbarian. She's probably just gonna, have some DR, and I'll hit her a little bit. I mean, how bad can it be? In a situation where you have more players that can give you that working margin because of healing and strategizing and tactics, you could get away with that. If it's a heads-up sort of scenario, treat statistics with a little bit more. I mean, you don't have to be have a master's degree in it, but treat the statistics as as something to at least consider. And in its own way too, you could use this technique if you have a ton of people at your table. For instance, for my Curse of Strahd game, we had an event occur. No spoilers. You don't have to turn down your speakers or anything. One of our sessions, we had a lot of people at the table. It's like 14 people or so. And an event occurred where a monster was going to show up and last for a certain amount of time. For whatever the reason, that it would not be in combat anymore. through defeat or whatever else. And so what I did was, because I don't want to run initiative for 14 people at my table, I looked at the timer, and then I looked at the average damage output. If my dragon did average damage every round for a minute, and then I subtracted, what would be the percentile that it would miss. And so I removed some damage from the pool, and I looked at my party and I said, all right, you all tell me how you're going to mitigate this. The fight is going to last for a minute. I am dealing a total pool of whatever, like 220 damage. You tell me how you're going to mitigate that. And they all looked around and they said, okay, well, I'll cast 2 cure spells. Someone else can cast a cure spell. And so what happened was I delivered them just a pure raw number of damage. On the back end, to represent the combat and the strategy and the healing that they would have given each other throughout the course of this minute-long combat, they then blew their spell slots to get an amount of damage down to a point where where a couple of them were willing to take the hit points themselves and prevent other characters from being damaged because they just took the hits to their actual hit points. Now, was that a thrilling turn-by-turn combat? Not exactly. Did it still represent a great threat, and it had resource management, and it was still a fair system? Well, also, to the players as well as to the time of everyone at the table, including myself? Indeed. So you can look in these interesting scenarios. You can look at these averages. You can look at a total hit point pool and plan an encounter around that. Neil says, the biggest problem I see that could happen is, as a single PC, one bad roll is really bad. Yes. And that is something, be prepared for disaster. You are correct, Neil. If you were piloting Velma Dilly Dilly, you could get paralyzed by that gas that statistically you should take down in 3 rounds or so. And I'm going to just chew your face off while you're sitting there paralyzed and I'm getting crits on you. And how would you handle a situation like that? You could fudge rolls. I like to roll in front of people, though, because that helps keep me responsible as a DM. I would then plan and realize with that in mind, Neil, if it came to it, she could probably survive this encounter with a ghast, barring a super bad luck. But, I mean, that can happen. I mean, sometimes rocks fall or lightning strikes. Or because your player... So, Neil, if you're playing Velma, you know that it's you, right? This is tactical espionage action. Velma Dilly Dilly is going to be Snake Plissken here. You have to infiltrate the dungeon, and so as a DM, I might give you clues. All right, so the dungeon is actually a tomb. Sprocketeer, by the way, if I didn't say hello to you, Sprocketeer, I might have gotten on a soapbox about something, and if so, shame on me for forgetting to greet you. But welcome. Also, Diadems, what kind of pizza did you have? And hot dogs, nom 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 nom. Good call, Dark Wolf. And so what you would do then is, Neil, you may not be an intelligent character as Velma, but it doesn't mean that she wouldn't want to live, or she might not ask questions. And so you learn that the dungeon, through interaction with me as your DM as the PC, or as NPCs in the world, okay, so it was the tomb of Baron so-and-so. And you do a little bit more investigation, you prep for the adventure. And then it suddenly becomes, well, fighting is a possibility. And as a DM, I might actually try and, maybe I wouldn't force a fight, but I would expect a fight at one point or another. You, however, might get a hint that Baron so-and-so is actually the ghast that is patrolling through this tomb. And it's up to you, even though this character might not be the best at stealth. How do you overcome that? How can you do things, for example, like get advantage on stealth checks? Would you tell me as my lone PC, okay, I'm going to buy a black cloak with a hood, I'm going to buy face paint, I'm going to tie down any buckles or anything that can jingle, jangle, jingle? And in that case, because you're being super cautious and you're telling me I'm moving slowly, even though I'm a barbarian, you may not be proficient in stealth, but I might be willing to offer you advantage to your stealth checks because you took all these precautions. Because you know that you're going in alone, and unless you have a hireling, like what Civil Hermit was talking about, unless you have some backup, it's going to be you. And if you take that hit, if you take an unlucky hit especially, that could be game over. Diadem's pepperoni sausage and half pineapple. My man. My man, Diadems. Civil says there's a variant in the DMG called Hero Dice or something that might be nice for one-player game to mitigate some really detrimental random encounters. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up here. Because... Whoops. Yeah, this is going to be... I think I'm close to it here. There are different styles of playing. Was it an epic fantasy? Oh, this is the thematic, the thematic way of approaching it. Instead, there's a player option. But yeah, they might be able to float several points of inspiration. You might be able to tweak and modify the rules because the DMG has some excellent other ways of playing. Considerations to adjust your game to make it harder or easier. And just because you think you're making something easier by, I don't know, you allow the character to float 3 inspiration points, that may be, but remember, you're going from encounters that are scaled from 4 to 6 adventures. I mean, it's based on 4, and it would go up from there, down to 1. Oh, it's 264. Thank you for that. There we are. Hero points work well in epic fantasy and mythic campaigns, which we're referencing. With this option, the character starts with 5 hero points at first level. Each time the character gains a level, he or she loses any unspent hero points and gains a new one equal to 5 plus half the character's level. So she'd have 8. A player can spend a hero point whenever he or she makes an attack roll, an ability check, or saving throw. The player can spend the hero point after the roll is made, but before any of the results are applied. Spending the hero point allows the player to roll a d6 and add it to the d20. Yep, solid suggestion then. It's still thrilling. It does give you a little bit more management of things on a sheet, but it could make for... it could make for something thrilling. And you know what? If Velma Dilly Dilly wants to break into the tomb of the dead Baron, that may very well be heroic, epic, mythic. It would fall under those lines. She is the Tomb Raider. Well, I hope your hood and cloak helps conceal a great axe. Well, so you get a cloak and a hood for Yude King, and then you get a second one that you just put over your great axe on your back. And that way it looks like you have someone following you around, too. It's like those dummies you can put in your car in the carpool lane so that you fool the police into thinking you have a car full of people when in fact they're just like crash test dummies or whatever. Sprocketeer, when my home group broke up, the GM carried the game on for just me. Was amazing. A 3-year solo game, very intense. Ooh. So, Sprocketeer, now I haven't had practical experience with this. This is simply the things that I would consider if I did that. Did it feel like a heads up, like an intense chess game? Did you still feel immersed in the story? Did you still feel a part of this world that was going on around you? Or that your DM wasn't just, giving you victories, and it wasn't just, we show up for the week and, we punch the clocks, so to speak, and we put in our work and we gain our level and go home? Nothing like gleaming polearm over your shoulder to make you more conspicuous or inconspicuous. Well, see, that's why you need the cloak for your axe. Totally immersed. The GM is excellent, and I had to work for everything. Well, then, Sprocketeer, if I miss something, I mean, Civil brought up a very good point, too, that I think would make sense. If I do miss something, because you live this for 3 years, please throw out other considerations. I can bring up some topics that we can discuss, some considerations if you ever thought about running a solo campaign, or you lose people, kind of like what you talked about. But in my case, I'm theory crafting. I'm trying to be considerate of a lot of options. But hey, I don't remember everything at all times, and I certainly haven't put in the years that you have into such a solo campaign. Zebracorn, all right, go do what you got to do. As it was brought up earlier also by Civil Hermit, hirelings, pets, and DMPCs. Do you want the character to be truly alone? Which maybe as a player you do. You want to prove yourself. I will get through this scenario. I'm a barbarian charlatan, but I will infiltrate the castle, and I will put down the Mad King, or something along those lines. Okay. Here's some details. You plan the heist. I will adapt to what your character thinks. If you want to learn about the rotation of the guards, and so you slip in when the guards are changing, hey. But you as the player would have to ask about that, right? Because you alone are calling all the shots. It's that instance where we say anarchy is the best form of government. Unfortunately, it doesn't work when there's more than 2 people, or if there's more than 1 person, I should say. So in this case, I mean, who's the player going to blame if they don't find the schedule of the guards, or they don't learn that the king is allergic to peanuts, and buy some to drop into his meal, or something along those lines. Because then if you run the encounter and your player's trusting you as a DM to not just go, haha, I killed you. Wow, I really got you good because I know everything in the world that's happening at all points in time and you don't. Ha. If you trust to run that kind of heads up, that chess game or that fair of, I'll provide you information, but you have to unlock it first. Maybe they do want to have a hireling. They want a Nodwick to carry around their stuff in a chest on his back. They want a Mastiff following them around. It's not intelligent, there's no psychic connection, but it knows when you say sick, it's 6. When you say, come back, it comes back. Sprocketeer, of the 3 years, my character spent it all searching for her kidnapped lover. It was a tough scenario, very detailed, full of depth. You don't have to. You don't have to write it all out. I mean, even abbreviation like that is a good start to having us realize. Sorry, by the way, that there's a fan blowing over my shoulder here, and it's causing my one contact to just sort of like dry and geek out over here. So if I see him a little like winky in this eye, or I'm rubbing it, it's because I need to re-angle some things. Such a game forces the solo player to really dig deep in yourself. You have just yourself to rely on. Unless you have a helpful NPC to aid you, it's very challenging. Yes. And hopefully as a DM, you would be open-minded to... they might not be able to find someone in this town that is atop the Baron's tomb, because none of the locals want to go into the Baron's tomb. But if the Baron's not going to go anywhere, nor is his treasure, because no one here is going to go after it, and the world's not going to blow up if you don't get the crown jewel of the Baron, you might go to the next town over and put up a flyer. Wanted. Someone with these qualities. Danger involved, I'll pay you half now, and half when we're done. Or something along those lines. So you do have to take a longer view, because you have to be self-reliant. Oh, man, my contact is geeking out. Oh, my gosh. Sorry, everyone. I hope it's not, like, gross that I'm rubbing my eye on stream. You just reminded me of something I could have done today. What's that, Forsaken? Diadems goes into the forest. A centaur archer. You have advantage? Oh, nice, Diadems. You just barely manage to take down that centaur. Oh, you also have a whistle that summons a mastiff. There you go, then. Hey, 12 for 10. Good to see you. Respect, there's worse things... right, respect? There is, though, I mean, you all... I'm not wearing my yoga pants tonight, so unfortunately I can't, I can't put up a follower goal and then do squats on stream in front of you all in my yoga pants. I'm sorry. We'll have to wait until next time. Oh. And, well, Forsaken, I will say this as well. Not that other editions have been slowed down by this. If you are in a party of multiple people, if you summon animals, or you summon magical beings, or everyone has a hireling and a horse and a dog and whatever, that can slow down the game greatly. Especially if you like conjure woodland animals or whatever, and you have like 6 badgers, and then you're rolling attacks for all the badgers, and you're keeping all the badgers' hit points, and you're doing all this other stuff. In a larger group, summons, hirelings, NPCs, they can be useful, but they can also, in a meta sense, they can really slow down the game. Or heck, if you want to invade the Baron's tomb, and it's a party of 5 that suddenly is a party of 10, because everyone has a dog and a retinue and whatever, that can slow things down. Now, in a heads-up game, where it's a PC and a DM, or like 2 PCs maybe, it might not hurt to have a hireling, or for the DM to have what's known as a DM PC, or a Dungeon Master player character. So you have a full character sheet, and you're playing along. You're probably going to default for the actual PC to make the decisions, but you'll punch stuff that needs punched, you'll roll knowledge rolls where it's needed, and you as the DM are going to try and be impartial for this character's personality, and go from there. Summons in general is definitely a no-go if you're in a party, at least in 3-5. Well, even in 4th or 5th, because you have so many more things on the board that have entered initiative, and even more especially if they can do multiple things. For instance, you summon some casters, like some pixies that have a daily spell list, and that spell list has 6 different spells on it, and you decide to use different spells with different pixies, so you're keeping track of it. Summons can make the game more convoluted, and that's something to be wary of, especially in a larger group. In a heads-up scenario, it's probably not going to be as bad if you summon a Mastiff to your side, or if you have a Nodwick following you around to haul all your stuff and to provide you advice. One-to-one role-playing interaction, says Sprocketeer, is intense with the right people. Well, it can also be a lot more intimate, too. And, of course, I'm not saying, like kissy face, you're playing footsie under the table. Like, you can be intense. You can get into that character, and maybe you're not as shy to bring up some issues through that character that you might not bring up if 4 or 5 other people are sitting around the table. You might be willing to have your character be more vulnerable, or to break down in a moment of absolute, like, I've hit the bottom of the barrel, what do I do? And to go and rise from there, because you have to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. No one else is going to do it for you. Diadems. Oh, nice. You won 3 gift cards on his 24-hour stream. Yeah, so Captain Milne went for a 24-hour stream to celebrate his channel. And he had quite a blast. That dude has a magnificent beard I could only hope to ever have. And really, this is ever all it's going to be. Yeah, I get the stuff over here. Kind of like, it grows out. It can get a little itchy. This is what I have. And you know what? I don't even grow hair here. So if I want to at least look like I can do that, like I have to grow my mustache over my lip and have it kind of connect that way. Genetics, right? I'm only half here. Just hear Maddie saying, I'm not wearing my yoga pants. That is correct, Dark Wolf. I'm not wearing my yoga pants tonight. So when if I hit my follower goal, or, someone gives me that really big D to put up on my screen, I'll do squats on camera in my yoga pants. Draw on your face with a Sharpie? Oh, jeez. I will definitely pass... not with a Sharpie, maybe with like a water soluble one I could wash off after the stream. We are in a decrepit town that has been left for over 300 years, and I'll use it to check the buildings. Well, consider too, what's your connection to the dog? Do you just tell it to search? Is it intelligent? Do you talk with it psychically, verbally? Hey, LZ, beep boop to you too. Sprocketeer, it was. I cried several times during the game. Sprocketeer, I respect that. When you have those moments that you have to stop and you feel feelings. It sounds kind of silly to say. But when you have those moments, nothing will beat them. And you do hope that you find the next one. In its own way, its own shape or form. Heck, all of my top 10 anime, they have made me shed manly tears. My eyes have sweat because of those anime. So I'm really glad you brought that up, Sprocketeer, and I respect the ding-dang doodly heck out of... Pardon my Flanders. But I respect the ding-dang doodly heck out of you for not only continuing on in that solo campaign, but for having such an amazing experience. It touched you emotionally at what was happening at this heads-up D&D campaign. Neil says, in one of our campaigns, we emulated summons as pure fluff. It was definitely solid, though obviously lacked the depth of an extra character there. Well, yeah, because look, there's a point, especially if you have a couple summoners or 3 people want to be Beastmaster Rangers, or you have a Beastmaster Ranger and then you have a druid who summons woodland animals, and then someone else has a bag of tricks, and they keep pulling out celestial dire badgers and rats and stuff like that. And suddenly your initiative goes from 5 people in a party to 8 or 9, and that's just 9 spots in initiative, let alone the fact if all 3 of the celestial dire badgers act on the same turn, so then there's actually 3 extra rolls, 3 extra hit point totals, etc. King says summons are fine, but you have to be the kind of guy who has all the numbers ready to use. You don't want slow reading Phil or fat tongue Todd to stumble around flipping through the PHB or the monster manual. Yeah, you could even say that too at the table. I will allow summons and pets, but if you don't have their actions ready to go, then they're gonna just stand there on standby until their next turn. You have now this isn't a multiple person party. If it's heads up, you don't really have the gift of waiting for other people to get through their actions first. But yeah, you would have to be able to trust your player as a DM to either have the rolls already generated, or as a DM, you would trust your player to know what they're going to take next, and it's seamless and smooth. When their turn comes around, they say, "All right, I'm moving my panther here. Here's my attack. Here's my damage. Now I'm going to shoot an arrow at the same target. Here's my attack. Here's my damage." Turn passes. Then the person who's doing the summoning or has the pets uses the time everyone else gives them to plot their next move. So yeah, there is some responsibility that can go along with it, and it can run smoothly. But you can't be the type of person to say, "Well, I'm going to summon pixies because I hear that's the uber thing to do, because you're just going to polymorph people with your pixies and go from there." You know, and then they say, "Well, but I don't know. Should I cast polymorph or should I cast sleep?" Well, hang on. Did I already cast sleep on pixie number 5? I think I did. And I think they already also used polymorph. Shoot, which spell is left? And hang on. Well, let me look at the spell list. Don't do that at the table, please. Sprocketeer, our games were always intense. That's the way we played, and you love it. And those are the moments that you really try and live for as a role player. Well, I do. Hopefully you do as well. But that's the sweet spot, Sprocketeer. And you coming in and talking about that, especially in this auspicious moment where we're talking about a heads-up campaign, I very much appreciate that. Your shared experiences. Even talking about things that technically never happened, and yet we're discussing it with intricate detail. We're summoning the emotion. You know, you might even feel that little flutter in your chest as you remember that time that it was so intense, like it caused you to weep at the table. King says, though I'd say it's worth the effort to drop down a Celestial Dolphin token. that was in one of Own Dog's games, if I recall correctly. Alzi says that King spellcasting apps have given me a lot more courage. Sprocketeer Studio Ghibli anime has... Yep. That happens. Forsaken, I still remember the first show that made me cry. It was Pokemon, the first movie. Oh, is that when the one Pikachu was beating up the second one and it was crying? Forsaken? 12 for 10 says, to dog meat, see if there's any good stuff nearby. Oh, from Fallout, right? Oh, the same oath, the same sky. Pneumatica, D&D already has a lot to limit extra characters. A lot of summons are pretty restrictive in what they can do. Yeah, I don't want to put it out there that, no, it's bad, you shouldn't play a summoner, or you shouldn't play a Beastmaster Ranger, or you shouldn't try and just train a pet, or not have a homunculus or a familiar. Just understand, like any other mechanic on your sheet, understand it and be efficient with it. Forsaken at LZ, yes. Civil says, my players control several tokens during combat. I had to rule they act on your main character's turn. Okay, so you didn't even split it out into initiative. LZ, hey, I'm the Cambion you ordered. I'm just gonna, check my snap for a bit, okay? Yeah. Oh, mail order Cambions. It's easier than you think, and probably not what you'd hope for. Sprocketeer limits summoners' turn time. If they take too long, they miss their turn or get a default action by the GM. Nothing worse than the players taking 10 minutes to decide what to do. Yeah, so you can keep a little 2-minute timer. In a heads-up campaign like this, I suppose you could, but you might have a lot more time because it's just you, and you do need to play that game of chess to try and survive that much longer, that much more. Did you encounter that, Sprocketeer? Did your DM in your heads-up game give you a timer? A turn timer? King says that Sprocketeer, in your game, you should fluff conjurations to mess with the space-time continuum, and miscasts from sloppy wizards make them frozen in time, but not invulnerable. Is your TV dirty? What are you talking about? If you're talking about this over here, it's just a matter of catching the light on my green screen, if that's what's happening. 12. Alzi, did they ever fix the whole Beastmasters can either act or have their pet act issue? I don't know that offhand, Alzi. I have not gotten to play a Ranger yet, and I haven't looked at the FAQ. Although, seek and ye shall find, Alzi. It might be in there. In fact, if you find that, can you let us know? That's a good idea. I might have to do that for my party, because half of them have pets. Yeah, exactly. Make it a lot easier, Dark Wolf. And also realize, pets are just that. Unless they have some magical psychic bond or emotional compulsion, you know, if I get upset at my pets, they're going to run away from me. Even though I feed them every day and I love them and I take care of them. You know, some pets may step up for their masters and drag them out of a burning house or something along those lines. Or, you know, Lassie's going to go tell the neighbors that Timmy fell down the well. But if they're just a mundane pet that hasn't had, you know, the proper grooming and the proper the command structure, a pet is a pet. A summon is a summon, a homunculus is a homunculus, a familiar is a familiar. And they might behave in different ways. Heck, not even all summons behave this similar fashion. Elementals, they'll follow your commands so long as it's in the duration. After that, who knows? Undead might turn on you. That kind of a thing. Yeah, you're welcome. I don't know why it's acting up over here, but it is. So yeah, you're gonna see. Hey, Katie Sue, how was your monster hunting? I wonder if I just need to extend one of the poles out. I guess that helped a little bit. Get one of these as a PC. Exhausting, but good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was fun watching you hunt some monsters. And thank you for coming over to say hi to us. You picked up some beautiful new friends from my mailbox today. Oh, Daily. Someone got their minis. Although, Diadems didn't get his yet, so don't make him feel too bad. Ooh, I don't know where they're at. Hopefully in the mail. I super hope, because the postage was paid for him. I intended to also rule that every additional token a player controls reduces the player's initiative total by 1. That has been a bit too much to bother with usually, though. Sprocketeers, so many players don't start to think of their next move until the GM says, what are you going to do? Players should always be using everyone else's turns, yes. And not doing this. Uh-huh. Oh, fireball? Cool. Oh, I'll move their next turn. Oh, it's my turn? Let's see. I can cast... use that spell. Lightning Bolt. Let me look at the board. No, they're not lined up for Lightning Bolt. Can you guys help? Can you, like, use Gust of Wind to get them lined up for Lightning Bolt? Yeah, I know that storm, right, guys? That storm yesterday, that, whew, if that happens at your tabletop, get like a little, like a bell, or just go, hey, hey. For a possible fix of the Ranger Beastmaster, check out the Unearthed Arcana Ranger revised thingy. I don't know if it succeeds. I haven't read it, but it's there. People have brought that up before, Pneumonica. I don't think it's been officially printed, but it does have a lot of people referencing to it, because there are people who think that Ranger is underpowered. Or maybe is awkwardly worded. I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. You're going to lurk and eat dinner? All right, Katie. Eat something extra yummy. I'm doing okay dealing with a kidney stone. Oh, dude, that is a bummer. Hopefully that will just not need anything extra than what nature provides. And it's a one and done for you daily, because, whew. Side note, we have no phone rule at the table. Aha. There you go. Been there last week or two, so I know your pain. We banned phones, etc. from the table. We have a 5-minute break every hour for phones, coffee, bathroom. A gavel. There you go. I found it's better when you tell the next PC when they're on deck. Yeah, you could do the whole, you know, okay, so Daily, it's your turn. And then, why am I use this so often. It's the baseball terminology. Was it like next, on deck, and in the hole? And then, you know, you can keep it going on an initiative tracker. Out of character chat among players is why I've stopped watching D&D on Twitch. Some groups waste half of their session messing around. It's crazy. Some games end up like comedy relief, very boring. But yeah, if you're watching for the story. King says turn resolution in D&D is just weak. You gotta spice your games up by hiring crazy people to wander around your dark house and stab you if they feel like you're taking too long. Suddenly, everyone's having a good time shouting out their actions. Pneumonica says, I'm in the habit of having things happen to the PCs of inattentive players. I try not to be malicious about it, but sometimes I'll have an NPC target an inattentive player's PC and make sure to ask them, though, hey, what's your parry again? Hello? Yeah, your parry? Okay. Oh, a hit? What's your toughness? All right, yeah, you tag them, right? Curse of Strahd ends up like the Three Stooges meets Dracula. There's so few games taken seriously. Well, Sprocketeer, I don't know if our Tuesday games turn into a lot of chatter along those lines, but now that you have found us, and if you're giving us a trial run to see who we are, if we pass your muster, I would invite you to watch either the VODs, although on YouTube it goes back to session 0, actually, not even just session 1. And I would love your opinion on how our game conveys. Do we tell story? Do we, or do you think that we're table chat? Alzi says, yeah, so the revised Beastmaster makes more sense. The companion has its own actions, and you don't have to choose which one of you attacks. At 5th level, you can attack together in a combo strike. All right, 12. Hey, thanks for coming by and chatting with us. It's always nice having you. Be well, my friend. But there you go, Sprocketeer. If you have the time and interest, you may very well be a busy man with busy things to do. And if you watch it and you like it, awesome. If you watch it and don't like it, let me know what I can improve. If you don't watch it because you're busy, have a happy, successful, fruitful life, my friend, and continue living a happy, successful life. Okay, we went through a lot of considerations. I think we've hit a break time here. I'm gonna have to get up and take a short break myself, and then when we come back, let's come up with adventure prompts for this character. If you were playing Velma Dilly Dilly and we started you out as this character, and we took you through the changes that happened in that character's life, how could that campaign look? What would the outline be? What would be the challenge? Would she be sent into the tomb of Baron so-and-so? It was brought up, was it you, Diadems? Who brought it up that she would assume the form of the king as a placeholder during this confrontation, and that's why she became a male character over the course of the campaign. Neil says, the Ranger wasn't necessarily weak, but it felt bad to play as one. Aha. All right. BRB.